At the Labour conference, Shabana Mahmood unveiled her fiery Good Citizen test, a plan demanding higher English standards, proof of economic contribution, and even volunteering before migrants can earn the right to stay. But the announcement collided head-on with Keir Starmer's explosive remark that worrying about migration makes you racist. The clash turned blistering, with critics accusing Labour of hypocrisy, preaching open doors one day and tough rules the next. The studio ended in gasps as tempers flared and unexpected lines were crossed. Was this bold reform or political chaos disguised as policy? Watch until the end and tell us, do you agree?
Did you know over 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed? Subscribing is free and helps us create more great content. Hit subscribe now and join our community.
The conference coming today where she is talking about putting controls on migration.
And deportations.
I'm a fan of hers. I think she's the most conservative Home Secretary we've had in a long time. A lot of the proposals being put forward today, I cannot for the life of me understand why a Conservative in the Home Office for 15 years was not putting these forward. You know, ILR, indefinite leave to remain, being extended to the qualification for 10 years. You have to be a net contributor. Your English has to be to a much higher standard than just an automatic box tick that pushes you over the line. All of these things were things that, in theory, we could have done.
And to a lot of people, that would just sound like common sense.
Absolutely, and I cannot understand why it is that it's the Labour Party scared about reform putting these in place when the Conservative Party was in government for as long as it was and didn't do anything like this. I also think the route between indefinite leave to remain and citizenship needs to be looked at. I don't know that this goes far enough at looking at that. Obviously, as someone who comes from a Welsh political background, I would argue that if you speak good enough Welsh rather than good enough English, that should be a qualification, although the Welsh Secretary has yet to respond to my letter on that earlier this year. I think that a lot of these sentiments are really, really good, but I fail to understand how you make the good citizenship judgment. And they're saying that if you've made an extraordinary contribution, then you can get it faster. Those are the things I think are going to be held up in the courts, because how is the government making the judgment call on this? Is the Home Secretary sitting in front of 100,000 applications a year going, yes, I think you're a good egg and I think that you're not?
And who's checking on who's volunteering?
Exactly. And what kind of volunteering are we talking about? And is there a national standard for that? You know, it's very hard to be able to create a minimum standard, a minimum threshold for what you might meet there. In the are you a good egg category. I don't disagree that you should be a good egg if you're coming here, but how do you judge it?
You'll not convince me that there will be a department within the civil service who will be ready to tick the boxes and say, she's a very good volunteer, that's going to be okay. They won't care less.
No, and I think that the box ticking that they have now is easy and the box ticking that's being proposed is hard.
Yeah.
And I think that the leap from one to the other is going to be very difficult to achieve within the Home Office.
Do you think the party will even get it through? I mean, look at welfare cuts.
Well, this doesn't appear to have sort of a financial penalty attached to it, and the welfare cuts issue was one where people were saying, well, our voters aren't going to stomach this, and you know, why aren't we putting the hammer down in other areas? That's where the argument about a wealth tax, wrong as it is, were coming forward instead. You know, why isn't the hammer coming down on taxation rather than state cuts? This is mostly about the administration of a system rather than the cost of a system. Hopefully it should bring the cost of a system down if it works well. But as for what's being announced, I think we have to consider that this is for a party conference speech rather than, you know, a policy paper that's going to the House itself. So there's a lot of meat that still has to be put on the bones to this. But I wonder how well this is going to go over with some Labour voters who are more pro-migration from the Labour membership point of view, and this is a speech to membership, versus how this is going to go in places like the Welsh Valleys, where they are having their lunch eaten by both Reform and Plaid Cymru. And a lot of this in the next 6 months will be about whether or not Labour can hold on to Wales in that Senedd election next year, when they have had a victory in each election since universal suffrage. And it doesn't look like they're going to have that position hold into May next year.
Lauren, I'm looking at this super dinghy.
The what?
It's
Mega
the largest.
dinghy, yeah.
It's the largest ever boat that has been launched to carry migrants or so. 1,300 of them arrived this weekend. 125 can easily fit on this super dinghy here. Now, Zia Yusuf, who's the former party chairman of Reform, he says, the only place Labour is driving innovation is in the illegal dinghy market. Do not complain or Starmer will call you a racist.
That's a good line. I think that a super dinghy is the natural progression from your only attempt at stopping the boats being, you know, can we slash them on the way out of France? Can we, you know, if your only option for stopping them is can we try and stop these boats from functioning at all, they'll build bigger and better boats. There has to be a better way of stopping them. There has to be a better way of stopping people getting into boats to begin with. The Prime Minister isn't exactly wrong in the need to break down the organised crime network supporting this, because it is a crime network that is getting people across the channel, and we see that when it comes to the people who then take illegal work here in order to pay off the people smugglers.
Not only are they not breaking down those networks doing that, they seem to be growing. These networks seem to be cocking two fingers up and saying, you think you can stop us? Look at this, baby.
And it's like whack-a-mole, isn't it?
Yeah,
you take out one criminal gang, another one would appear.
As I've said on this programme before, the French are turning around to us and saying you have too many incentives to be here. We haven't clamped down on the sort of, not the benefits, because that's a very loaded word, but the incentives for people to want to come here, and that's making the French struggle with being able to stop people getting into boats to begin with because of the numbers involved. And when the French are telling you that you aren't doing enough, I think the answer has to be you need to do more. And I think that there is a very big conversation that has to be had across Europe that I think a lot of people in Europe at government level are willing to have now, about what is the definition of a refugee, what is the definition of an asylum seeker, a possible new classification for economic migrant. A lot of the definitions we're talking about come from an era where the cost of transportation from parts of the world was so much higher. And now that it's lower and there's more countries reaching middle income status, we have to reassess what those...
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.